In this video, we're going to look at some different ways to light your decking and associated features, and I am particularly excited to share this LED strip here with you, so stay tuned to see what makes this so amazing. So this is the decking area that we're going to illuminate, and it's got this pergola constructed on the top here, which we're actually going to use to our advantage, so more on that a little bit later. It's actually already got some existing lighting mounted on the fence posts here, which gives us a great start to lighting up this area. But we want to add some more to create a bit of texture, to create some points of visual interest, and to make this relatively small area feel really special. So let's consider 4 ways that we can light up decking differently. Number 1, stop lighting up the sky. Very often when people start looking at adding lights to decking, their kind of go-to choice is to add recessed lights that point upwards. Now, this is okay because it kind of creates small points of visual interest on the surface, but unless those lights are actually pointing at something, then all the light that they emit just disappears into the sky and doesn't really impact on the installation at all. So what can we do to make this method of lighting decking pop a little bit more? Well, I've got these fittings from Ansell. It's the Turlock LED, and it's pretty smart because it comes with this sleeve here that allows it to be easily installed into a concrete casting for a path or something like that. Now, I won't need that sleeve in this instance because I'm going to be relying on these spring clips to hold the fitting into the decking. So it's really simple to install. I just drill a hole through the deck in the position that I want it to be, and it comes with this pre-wired flex that I can take into a weatherproof connection. But the really clever part comes with this adapter here that sits on the top of the fitting. If you just undo the 2 screws on the front here and then remove the glass lens, you can see that the adapter comes with a new kind of frosted glass lens that sits in the fitting. And then the domed plate sits over it and screws into place. Even during the day when the fitting isn't on, this looks loads better with the brushed steel dome here. But the accessory has the effect of diverting the light out of the sides of the fitting, thus illuminating the decking instead of being lost into the sky. It comes in 2 forms, this one with a 2-way splitter and the other with a 4-way splitter. So you can see the effect that using the 2 different types of fitting has created. I've added 2 fittings to the edges of the decking here, and you can see what it looks like with the 4-way splitter here. And swapping them out for the 2-way fittings creates this amazing effect. Also, you can actually twist the whole fitting round to change the directions that the fittings illuminate, meaning you can get super creative by pointing them in different directions to create different effects. As you can see, the light output just grazes across the surface of the decking, creating a larger area of visual interest than just pinpoints of bright light. So that's a great start and has already started to improve the look and feel of this area. But having started at ground level, you may be thinking that the only way is up. Well, you'd be wrong. Number 2, set your lights lower. Now, normally when we illuminate something, we put the light above it and we point down to the object. And that's logical because that's pretty much the way that nature works. Now, we have started to move away from that in this installation a little bit by placing some of the lights in the surface of the decking. But have you ever thought about putting lights under the decking? Now, most of the time when these long planks are installed, there's a gap left between each one to allow for a little bit of expansion. But we're going to take advantage of this by installing some fittings underneath here and creating texture along the front surface. Now, it's important to understand at this point that we're not trying to create a light source here that can be used to illuminate the patio or the decking. We're creating a lighting effect that if you're sitting down here on the patio, it'll just lift this front face up a little bit and create a subtle but reassuring glow between the slats. So to achieve this, we'll be using this Meteor fitting from Ansell. It's an incredible fitting with a wide range of applications. It's actually rated at IP68, which means it can be submerged at depths of over 1 meter. So it could be used to illuminate ponds from under the water, which could be a really exciting effect. It's a constant current fitting, and so it needs the appropriate driver. And if you're using more than one off the same driver, like I am here, you'll need to connect them in series with each other. And it just looks great. I love the styling on here with the stainless steel housing and the grooves around the outside. It looks kind of like a miniature version of those massive searchlights that they used to use at old movie premieres. It's almost a shame I'm putting them out of sight. Okay, so I'm putting them under here, but I'm not actually going to point them out towards the back of the decking for 2 reasons really. They need to be 0.5 meters away from the surface they're illuminating, and there's not a huge amount of room back here. But also, I don't want to create a bright spot between the gaps in the decking here. I want to create kind of a warm, reasonably uniform glow under here. So by pointing the lights away from the surface I want to illuminate and letting the light output bounce off the other surfaces in here, it'll create an indirect light source, reducing glare and giving us the effect that we want. So, night's fallen, let's power up the Meteor fittings under the deck and see what that looks like. Now I'm sure you'll agree that that is a great effect there. It's subtle, but it adds real texture and interest to this area, and when we start combining it in with some of the other lighting in this area, it gives us a layered effect where we can have some fittings on and some off to create different atmospheres. I love it. Number 3, create vertical interest. So let's get off the ground and look at this pergola now. Now it's fair to say that decking can kind of fall victim to the curse of the garden solar light. The temptation may be to hang some solar powered lights on strings from the pergola here to create that typical romantic environment, which can look great. But the problem is that those solar lamps are just not bright enough or controllable enough for regular, reliable use. And the problem is they tend to stop working pretty quickly. So what's the alternative? Well, this is the Concho IP65 LED strip from Ansell, and we're going to use it to create some vertical lighting effect for this area. Now, when we were planning this video, the good people at Ansell almost kind of casually dropped into conversation that this white LED strip can be installed in a run up to 50 meters long. I had to stop them and get them to say it again. 50, as in 50 meters long. And yes, they confirmed it can do a 50 meter run in white or 30 meter for the RGB version. That is quite an achievement for an LED strip, and it opens up the possibility of some seriously interesting applications. So what are we going to do here? Well, there's been a slot that's been routed into the uprights and the crossbeam of this pergola, and it's the width of the LED strip. So that's going to sit in there really nice and neatly. And I'm going to take it up this support post, across the top here, and then drop it down on the other side. Now the temptation when you do something like this would be to install the tape flush with the front of the surface, but actually it looks better when you recess it a little deeper because it tucks the source of light away, it creates a nice glow of light out of there, and it minimises glare from the light points as well. Now you can order this strip cut to the length you require at ½ meter intervals for the white version or at 1 meter intervals for the RGB. And you can get it pre-made off with the driver connected and the end caps on, all there ready for you. Or you can order a length and then cut it up and adapt it to meet your requirements. And to be honest, this can be quite handy for when you need to kind of play and experiment with the required installation a little bit. So let's power it up and see what it looks like. So you can see we've created a kind of arch or portal of light, which is great. Now the reason that I've only put it on this back section of the decking is that this is going to be a seating area looking out across the garden, and I want the light to project from behind the seating. I'm sure you'd agree that's created a really interesting and engaging light source for this decking area again. Number 4, make use of architectural features. Okay, so this one's a little bit of a cheat because we're looking at the sleepers here instead of the decking itself, but it's, you know, decking adjacent, so I think it's justified. So these sleepers are here to act as cladding to the retaining wall that's behind it, and partly for decorative effect and partly to try and extend the lifetime of these, there's a chamfer cut along the front top of each sleeper, and that helps water to run off down the front instead of creeping into the joints between the timbers. And on the bottom face of each one, there's a V-shaped notch cut into the sleeper to help water running down the front to drip off, again, instead of running into the joint. And it just makes the sleepers look a little bit better than just a solid face on there. So that's my carpenter hat off. When I look at this profile that's been created here, there's literally only one thought that springs to mind. That was born to hold some more LED strip. So again, I'm going to use some more of the Concho LED strip, and that's going to go into the groove that's been created here. Now, this is a great idea because it's taking advantage of this naturally occurring architectural feature anyway. It's going to sit up and inside here, out of sight, and because it's angled on the inside, it's going to project the light downwards and outwards. So it'll create a nice glow emanating from under the sleeper, provide a decorative effect to the timber surface, and also some incidental light onto this gravelled area here. Now, getting around this corner here could be a potential problem. However, Ansell have created a solution for this kind of situation in the form of this handy little flexible link here, which can be connected from one cut end of the strip to another cut end, meaning that you can get around tight bends really easily, which is fantastic. The strip can be fixed in place using these handy little clips here that simply and unobtrusively sit over the strip and pin it in place. I think it's fair to say that the Concho LED strip is a really simple way of achieving really long runs of LED lighting. And because it's 230 volts, there's absolutely no worrying about drivers or volt drop. Brilliant. So there we go. We've seen a few creative and different ways to add some excitement and depth to lighting installations when we're bringing some light to decking and its environs. But as always, we want to hear from you. What creative ways have you used to illuminate decking? Will you be using any of the ideas featured in this video? Please leave your thoughts and questions in the comments section below. And as always, thank you very much for watching.